morning, Boomer. How are you?
Good morning, Jay. I'm doing good. Just had a really weird run-in with, I guess, one of our employees here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I go back to get some coffee.
Yeah.
And there's a guy standing back there, big, heavy-set guy with a beard.
It's not Big Zoo. It's not me.
It's not Big Zoo. It's not you. And I'm like, who the hell are you? How long have you been here? He goes, my name's Nick. I've been here almost 4 years. And I'm like, okay, well, I've never met you. And he goes, yeah, you have. I said, no, I have not ever met you. And then he said he met me on the elevator.
Okay.
Talking about that newfangled elevator situation we have here.
Sure, yeah.
The buttons and all this other stuff. And I think he said he was complaining about it. And I'm like, well, look, Nick, I can't remember that. It was like 4 years ago. I didn't know if you were working for Google. I don't know if you were working upstairs at one of the ad agencies.
Yeah.
I don't know who the hell you are.
Well, that's one of the problems that you run into is every person remembers their interaction with you, but you can't remember your interaction with everybody.
All right, so I finally went on the offensive in that situation.
Yeah.
I finally said, Nick, I don't remember ever running into you anywhere. That's why I said to you this morning, good morning, I'm Boomer, who the hell are you?
Yeah, sure.
As I was getting my coffee.
Right.
And then he started to make me feel guilty. And then, of course, Fliegelman comes out and Jerry comes out. And they're like, oh, yeah, he's been here for 4 years. I'm like, I've never seen this guy in my life.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen him. I felt like he might have filled in maybe one day you were out, too. I don't know. He's around. He's been around.
So, Fliegelman, you understand what I'm talking about, right?
Well, yeah, I know. I've been here for a while. Like Gio said, everybody's going to remember their first interaction with Boomer Esiason.
No, but enough with that. I'm sick of that. Why? Because
that's the truth, though. That's what we're talking about.
I understand. I kind of understand that, and I'll be okay with that. I'll be honest about that. But, I mean, the way that he made me feel just made me feel like I was 2 inches tall.
Well, because also the example was it was a quick 3 seconds in the elevator. You make a lot of small talk, a comment like that. Most people aren't going to remember the day-to-day stuff that happens. I have plenty of those in the elevator. I don't remember them.
Yeah, well, I get into the elevator. I read the Captivate. That takes me 30 seconds. I get a hell of a lot smarter in those 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. And the small talk doesn't really mean much to me. So I don't know. I was just beat down by a...
Beat down? He really made you feel that guilty?
Made me feel bad. And I'm like, hey, look, dude, I want you to apologize to me right now.
You did not demand an apology before the show.
I did.
Was it Nick Todaro? Is that his last name?
Theodoro.
So you didn't even know his last name.
I got close. I got the T and the O. I just messed up all the letters in between.
Yeah, so so that was my first foray back here this morning, literally 2 minutes before we started the show, and then Fliegelman came out and yelled at me and said, get your ass in there, because the show's already started.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, after the long weekend I walked in, I didn't recognize Brian Rascona, and I've known him since I was 10 years old. So
who's that?
Come on.
Hi, how are you, Boomer?
I see what's in there. Look at how low he sits. What is it? What's sitting in that chair?
I can't find a chair that's high. I was just looking for a chair that's higher. I can't find
the
one.
other
back
control room stole all the good chairs.
So go get them back.
And Al has the best one, but that's locked in the office. We can't get in.
Yeah, you're not allowed to use that. Yeah.
Why didn't you recognize me?
No, I'm kidding.
Because I can't see you.
No. I was joking.
Okay.
That after the long weekend,
you can't recognize him, but I can't see him.
No, of course I recognize.
All right, so man, a lot of stuff has happened in the last 5 days.
Sure.
And you were never so giddy than when you called me on Thursday, and I was on the golf course.
That's right.
And I'm like, Gio's calling me, I got to answer this. Usually if you call me,
something's going on.
Something's going on, and hopefully it's nothing serious.
Yeah, yep.
So you were giddy.
Mm-hmm.
Giddy.
Right.
When it came out that Kevin Durant now was requesting a trade from the Nets.
Oh, that was one of, and I don't care if it makes me sound pathetic as a Knicks fan, but that was some of the most happiness that I have had as a sports fan in New York for the last, 5 or 6 years.
When it comes to the NBA.
No, I would just say period.
You're happy for your Islanders.
Yeah, I guess, but it's different because I'm a bigger Knicks fan than I am an Islanders fan. And I guess probably since the Mets went to the World Series. That's how fired up I was over this. And I called you right away, and it was just hilarious to me. Now, it hasn't happened yet. Now, that's the big thing.
And will it happen?
I think it will happen. I think it's going to take a long time. I think the Nets are going to hold out for as long as humanly possible. I know Shams said that recently about how the Nets are going to wait for the perfect deal. But, yeah, it was great. I mean, this is all I ever wanted when those two guys came over here was the biggest disaster possible. And I honestly thought when Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving decided that the Nets were going to be the team for them, that I thought that those two guys, the disaster would be them losing in the conference finals, or Kyrie getting hurt, or maybe them having a crushing defeat in the NBA finals and never winning a championship. That's what I thought the worst case scenario was. Little did I know that the worst case scenario was this, which was the best case scenario for the Knicks fan, which is these guys barely play. They get swept in the first round. They lose a heartbreaking series to the Bucks. Kyrie Irving disappears for different reasons every single season. And then Kevin Durant demands a trade. I mean, it's perfect. It's just the greatest thing to ever happen. Now, we'll see what the return is for the Nets. I mean, they're not going to go away.
No, I mean, like, if Sean Marks is allowed to do what he hopefully actually should do and get away from these, there's nothing worse as an athlete than to be called what I'm going to call these two guys. Now, we knew what Kyrie Irving was.
Can I guess? Can I guess?
Yeah, if you'd like to.
Quitters.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's exactly what they are. Now, we knew Kyrie Irving was a quitter.
Mm-hmm.
We know he quit on Cleveland, he quit on Boston, and then he basically didn't show up for the Nets, and then whined and complained and wanted an extension for, like, who would in their right mind ever give him a guaranteed contract? And if the reports are true, you know, I think it's his stepmom or somebody that's doing the contract. You know, and she was willing to sign a contract that had playing time and show up time attached to it. That just goes to show you how mercurial Kyrie is. So, you know, we knew he was going to quit, and he quit like his first year.
Yeah,
he walked out the first year when they went to the bubble, when they needed a leader, when they needed a superstar, when they needed somebody to at least show up and start building whatever culture Sean Marks thought he was going to build. Even though Kevin Durant wasn't playing and they paid him $38 million not to play, you know, you would think that, okay, here's our leader, here's our guy, and, you know, we're listening to everything that Kyrie and Kevin Durant are saying, and we're doing everything possible to keep these quitters happy, you know, because we don't want them to quit on us. But so, you know, Kevin Durant doesn't even play that first year, and Kyrie Irving quits on the Nets. So, you know, we know that he has a history of doing that. I've sat here for 3 years and just spoke glowingly of Kevin Durant dealing with all this drama and mess, but he tied himself to Kyrie Irving. So,
and James Harden, by the way.
Yeah, and James Harden later, but he initially tied himself to Kyrie Irving. And he got this massive contract to come here. He ends up playing 3 out of the 4 years. They pay him for 4 years, and then they give him a massive $200 million max contract to stay here. And then now he wants to quit on the Nets. I mean, and that's what they are. They are basically quitters on their teams. And, you know, whether or not personally, if I were the Nets, I wouldn't trade them. I would just make them go out there and play at the Barclays Center next year. So you guys got contracts, go out there and play. And, you know, and maybe that creates a bigger picture situation with the NBA in general with their players.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that when a guy demands a trade, you know, the team has leverage and it never uses it. And the first time that I ever saw a team use that leverage was with Ben Simmons this last season before they ended up trading him to the Nets with the Sixers. I mean, he demanded a trade before the season, and then they just didn't grant it to him, and they just had him sit there, and then they ended up fining him. And that's what I had wanted for a team to do for a superstar in all these other instances. But I do think that for the Nets, the best thing is to rid themselves of both of these guys and actually try to get better than they were. You know, if they get some sort of return back with, you know, whomever, you know, with the Suns, with the Jazz, with the Warriors, if they could figure out a way to get better in using these two guys, I would, because obviously having the two of them didn't work out.
Well, yeah, that's the obvious thing. But if the bigger picture is, you know, when the new CBA comes around, if I'm an owner of an NBA basketball team, this is ridiculous. This is insane. It's insulting. It's absurd. It makes the league unlikable. Makes the players unlikable. You want likable players. I mean, I'd love to have a whole bunch of Steph Currys and Devin Bookers. I don't have those.
Not
guys.
Everybody loves Steph. You know, he gets on people's nerves too.
Well, whatever. But at least he's a guy that shows up and he wins championships. You know what? And he's a leader.
Oh, he's the great. I love him. I'm just saying that.
I don't know if they're playing the game out in, you know, Golden State where they say he's great. He's not demanding. He doesn't scream and yell. Like, think about Sean Marks brought Kyrie Irving here, and part of getting Kyrie Irving here was bringing Kevin Durant and paying him for not playing. Like, he got hurt playing for somebody else. And not only did he get hurt, he actually had come off of an injury, tried to come back, and then got hurt again, a different injury.
Yep.
And the thing about it is you admire that. You admire that as an athlete. You admire that as a former NFL player. I appreciate the level to which he risked his injury to win a championship with the Golden State Warriors. And then, you bring Kyrie here. Kyrie wants to bring his best friend, Kevin Durant. And if they don't come together, and then they're not coming, and so they're whining and everything else. And then he finally, gets him to come here, and they pay him not to play. And then they give him that 4-year contract extension last year. I'm like, is his business partner Rich Kleiman, is he like he must be really totally happy because he makes a lot of money off of Kevin Durant. But, I mean, even he's got to be like, you got to be kidding me. I got to go back to Sean Marks now and say, you want to be traded after they just gave you a 4-year max extension?
Apparently, Kevin Durant went right to Joe Tsai, and that's how it worked out. Jesus. He went right to the ownership and said he wanted the trade.
How would you feel if you were Joe Tsai and you gave Kevin Durant a year where he wasn't playing for you and he still made about $40 million? I think it was $38 million. Then he made his 3 years at almost $42 million per. And then you give him a new deal where the final year of that deal was $53 million. So you've given him a raise.
Yeah.
You've done everything, he's asked you to do for him. Bring his friends in here, bring this one in here, bring that one in here. And then he wants to quit on you.
Yeah, I'd say at that point I'd be like,
you've given him a freaking raise.
Yeah.
And he basically now wants to quit on you.
If I was Joe Tsai and he walked in, I'd be like, good, because you two guys, as far as I'm concerned, are total losers. And you've dragged this franchise down, and now I'm sick of it. That's what I would say.
I mean,
you want to tie yourself to this absolute lunatic in Kyrie Irving and this franchise. I mean, basically, he's pulled him down to the depths of the NBA ocean. I mean, fine, get out of here, because enough of this. James Harden and Kyrie Irving and you have had enough. All 3 years. Enough.
The funny thing is you and I, at the beginning of this whole thing, figured that it was not going to go well.
I wasn't so sure about that. I mean, I was nervous. I was very nervous that they were going to end up figuring it out and win a championship. That's what I didn't want.
And whoever gets Kyrie Irving is going to get screwed again. So, I mean, he has a track record, man.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and I guess LeBron wants him out there. We'll see if that happens. Imagine a Russell Westbrook, Kyrie Irving trade that's been bandied about.
Yeah, I know that's been talked about, but, that's only because of the money and all that other stuff. The Nets are not going to do that.
Man,
the Nets are not trading for Westbrook because the Lakers don't have the assets to make it good for the Nets unless there's a third team involved somewhere. And there's more assets coming back to the Nets. Now, this is really, can Sean Marks really make his money here now? Because that's what this is about.
Well, he was better at building a team before he signed his deal with the devil, bringing in those guys.
But I understand that the NBA feels like that's what you have to do in order to win a championship. You got to have, talented basketball players who aren't going to quit on you. You can say whatever you want about Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. Those guys, not Klay so much as Draymond, because Draymond likes to mix it up in the media and all that other stuff. When that guy comes to play, he comes to play.
Oh, of course.
And, those guys, have a symmetry together that has led to another championship without Kevin Durant, who quit on them. Now, they wanted to keep him, but he quit on them.
Yeah,
so I don't know what else to tell you other than.
Durant looks terrible, of course, in this whole thing. Looks just absolutely awful.
Does he really care?
Not anymore, because I remember he tweeted out that his legacy was forever changed and gone once he decided to leave Oklahoma City and go to Golden State. And at that point, nobody ever gave him the proper respect. So, no, I don't think he cares anymore. He probably thinks I can't do any more damage to what people already think of me, so why not?
I know I'm from a different generation. The Magic Johnsons and the Larry Birds and the Michael Jordans of the world all stayed with their teams. Michael ended up going to Washington for different reasons, but it's such a insult. Like, if I were a Net fan, and I'm not taking great joy in this like you all.
No, sure.
I'm just looking at it from a practical standpoint and how this whole thing laid out. I mean, our Knicks have got enough issues, and they may get dinged for tampering, which I wouldn't be surprised, because it was no secret that they were going after Jalen Brunson, and they're going to, everybody's, oh my God, the Knicks are going to get dinged at draft choice or something. Of course they are. I mean, it was so obvious everything that's gone on with them and Jalen Brunson. But thinking about what the Nets have done, I mean, if I were a Net fan, I would just be livid at these two guys.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm like, especially Kyrie, because he's the one that really got them to this point with the last 3 years of his nonsense.
Well, a lot of these Nets fans got exactly what they deserve because they got so cocky when those two guys came over and, they didn't want the Knicks and, I guess it's not the Mecca and now we're the team in town and blah, 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 and all this crap that they spewed for months and months and months. Well, you got what you deserved.
It's a clown show.
Yeah, you got what you deserve. So now you can go climb back into your hole that you came out of and leave us alone because nobody gives a flying you-know-what about your team anymore.
Totally irrelevant other than the fact that the drama around the team. Unless Sean Marks can somehow build a team out of the ashes that is Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
Which is possible, which is absolutely possible. And at that point, I'm not going to dislike them as much anymore. I really won't because it was really about Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving choosing the Nets and then coming here that just drove me nuts, and all the Nets fans that were spewing the nonsense they did about the Knicks and the Knicks fans. So to me, I'm not even going to, if Sean Marks pulls off something here and builds a real basketball team, I'm not going to harbor as much resentment for the Nets. I just probably won't pay attention to him.
When Sean Marks first got here, I said, this is really a smart signing coming from San Antonio. Obviously needs a little luck in the draft, but still could go find out some good players. There may not have been championship caliber players in a championship caliber team, but he had to come out from underneath the Billy King, decision-making process.
Which I thought was the biggest disaster in New York sports in the last 25 years.
But I understand what Billy King was doing. Billy King they were opening a new building. So we needed names. And, he overpaid for those names. And those names were at the end of their career. So, yeah, I understand what Billy King was doing and how he was trying to do it and what he was told to do and try to sell tickets and make them relevant. And then it was Sean Marks who had to come in after that whole mess. And it looked like he was doing a pretty good job. And then he decided to do what Billy King did. And he went down the road with, mercurial NBA stars, which are dangerous. They're dangerous because as long as they get their money and once they get their guaranteed contracts, they basically do whatever they want, however they want. And their agents, go to the ownership and say, get this guy, get that guy. I'll make my guy happy if you bring this guy in, bring James Harden in, and James Harden turns out to be a fool. I mean, and then he quits on the Nets.
Well, it seems like he had it right. He got out first.
Yeah, but the point being is he quit on the Nets.
Of course.
I cannot believe that 3 potential Hall of Famers, or 2 of the 3 are at least going to be Hall of Famers. I guess Kyrie will be a Hall of Famer, too. They'll probably put him in as well. But, I mean, they all quit. Hall of Fame basketball players quit on the Nets.
Yeah, they quit on their team. And there is absolutely no argument that can be made to the contrary. Kevin Durant completed it. The 3 of them. Well, I mean, you could say that Kyrie opted in, though. I mean, he did opt in. He
had no choice.
Right, he did opt in.
Nobody wants him.
Yeah.
There's no way that he would be getting his $36 million. And, the thing about, James Harden opting out in Philadelphia to help Philadelphia, he just wants 3 more years of guaranteed money is what he wants.
Right.
So he had $47 million coming. They'll probably give him $95 million over 3 years, and then he'll call it quits. I mean, these guys are so full of crap. It's not even funny.
But it does make the offseason more interesting than the regular season.
Yeah, but the thing about it now, and to go back to the Knicks for a second, okay, they got Jalen Brunson, they got Derrick Rose. So what does that mean for Emmanuel Quickley? They have Obi Toppin. They signed Mitchell Robinson, which was a good signing. It's a good, solid signing. It's your player. You're developing him. He does special things around the rim. He can, he's not a great scorer, but, he's a good defender, and he's a good rebounder. You need guys like that. But that was a good, solid, fair contract. He probably had offers other places, so they probably overpaid a little bit. But you still have Julius Randle and Derrick Rose on this roster that are stopping younger players from getting more play time.
Yeah, I mean,
because this roster currently constructed is not winning a championship.
Yeah, the 2 things quickly on the Knicks, and we could talk more about it later, but the 2 things that I'd love for them to do this offseason that I don't think they're going to do is find a way, and I know that both of them are difficult, but find a way to get rid of Julius Randle any way that you can, and then use that draft pick capital that you have to bring in someone like a Donovan Mitchell.
Yes.
Those two things happen, the Garden will be on fire this coming season, and it'll reignite the fan base. As of right now, it feels kind of stale, even with Jalen Brunson.
If Obi Toppin, I say again, I don't know, is what kind of player is he? What kind of player is Emmanuel Quickly? You know, Jalen Brunson was, a second-round draft choice?
I think so.
And he's turned himself into a starting point guard in the NBA. Now, I don't think he's a top 10 guy, but I think he's probably a top 15 guy, and he's going to be a leader of this team. So why couldn't Emmanuel Quickly become the same thing at the same time? And why couldn't he be doing it right here at a younger age? You see what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
Nobody thought that Jalen Brunson was going to be a 4-year, $100 million player, did they?
No.
When they drafted him?
Yeah, it was the 33rd overall pick.
All right, so
in the second round.
It was a good pick by the Mavericks, and he turned out to be really great, but he also played with Luka Doncic. So you say, okay, can Emmanuel Quickly turn into that player? You know, Emmanuel Quickly's been here for 2 years, and he's gotten better over that time. Kind of like R.J. Barrett has gotten better over that time. I think Obi Toppin has gotten better over that time. Now, are they ready to take it to another level? And how will you know if you bring in guys that are going to go get in the way of their minutes?